Good morning and welcome to the Athletic NBA Daily. Coming up, LeBron James has a very eventful day that ends in a game winner against the Pacers. Nikola Jokic returns to the court, and my guy Alex Hoops is here to talk about the Rookie of the Year race. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Alex. What's going on, my guy? If you guys don't know, by the way, Alex Hoops on YouTube, over 100K subscribers. My guy breaks down basketball. Very, very fun guy to talk basketball with. Alex, Lakers Pacers is the main story here from last night. It was an awesome game. Very eventful day for LeBron James, doing interviews, mind the game, potentially back, and now the game winner.
And Stephen A. Smith boxing match apparently is
apparently
in the works.
Celebrity boxing matches in the works too. Yep. Wanted to get your opinion on this Lakers team, but just generally the end of the game for them too, because it was all over the place. This game in general was very back and forth. Lakers had a 17-point lead. Pacers ended up with an 11-point lead at some point. It was back and forth, and it was a really fun game. But what was your thoughts on the finish?
It was funny in the fourth quarter because it seemed like the Pacers, you could tell the Pacers really wanted to win. Like the Miles Turner was clamping up, like his defense was fantastic. On offense, they were just like really clicking at the right time. Everything was going right. And then the Lakers, it was like they put their foot on the gas and they went really hard for like 2 or 3 minutes in the fourth quarter. And then at one point, it was like they kind of just stopped playing defense and the Pacers got like 6 straight points at the rim, just like early offense, driving past the front line. And then there was nobody in the paint. And I was like, come on, like, did the Lakers want to win or not? And then they pulled it out at the end there. But man, heartbreaking if you're a Pacers fan, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, no. So the craziness of it was, look, the Pacers didn't call a timeout when they had an opportunity to, set something up, run a good play. That didn't happen. I believe it was either Aaron Nesmith or Ben Mathurin who chucked up a shot. And it was a really great late double by LeBron to contest on that. Then the Lakers go the other way. Luka misses a floater for the win. And then LeBron tips in the shot, and it's just, fingertips type of thing. By the way, LeBron James became the oldest player in NBA history to have a buzzer-beating game winner. It's just, there's going to be multiple LeBron James stats with him being the oldest guy. It's going to be like Wilt, but for old players. You know what I mean? Look, it was awesome.
It's Wilt records for AARP members.
Right. Very nice. Very nice. The funny thing about this Lakers game, I thought, to your point about them getting exposed a little bit defensively at the end there, their small ball lineup was awesome throughout this game. It was plus 17 in 5 minutes for them with their lineup of, Jared Vanderbilt, Dorian Finney-Smith, Luka, Austin, LeBron. That lineup is something they're going to lean on a lot, but the drawback of it is some of these defensive lapses. You don't have that anchor, that paint protector, a guy who can basically contest shots around the basket. And so you only have one line of defense to work with. And so that's what Halliburton was doing. He had a really, really clutch shot in that fourth quarter to keep things close. Do you, for this Lakers team, believe that the way that they're constructed right now, they can make a deep playoff run? Given kind of the warts and everything we've seen over the last month or so with the Luka LeBron experiment. So
a couple of things with that. I think one, it kind of depends on your definition of like a deep playoff run, because there's like, if they ran into OKC early, like tough. First or second round.
Yeah.
That's a tough sell for me. I'd be like, I don't know if that might be a bridge too far.
Yeah.
But this team is not a team that I envision getting first rounded,
right?
Just based on the talent that they have at their disposal. Like, it's Luka and LeBron. Luka doesn't really seem to get first rounded lately, recently in his career. And so as far as like the basketball of it all, I think what the Lakers have done is they're not necessarily going to be the most perfectly constructed team. Like we said, they don't have a truly reliable defensive anchor. They're doing like band-aids on bullet wounds with Jackson Hayes and doing like they're getting by.
Mm-hmm.
But what's more important than that to me that the Lakers have done is they have given LeBron and Luka enough stuff that synergizes with their strengths that it's like, yeah, this team is not constructed perfectly. There's a lot of flaws, but it's like you at this point with what they have, the name of the game is double down on our strengths and try to hide our weaknesses as much as we can. And they do a good job of it. They end up in a lot of high blood pressure moments like tonight, but they come out with the
guys.
Win ultimately.
They have the guys in those moments that you trust and rely on. And so you're right. I think they have kind of like the good, the bad, and the ugly with this Lake. Actually, this game was really the definition of that because you saw them go through flows where their offense was clicking. They dropped 40 points in the second quarter, and that was because LeBron, and obviously LeBron actually didn't end up scoring a field goal until the fourth quarter. That was another subplot. His 10-point streak is alive. But the LeBron's playmaking, Luka and Austin getting shots and being tough shot makers, all of that is a recipe to be a really good offensive team. But sometimes that gets bogged down in the tough shot making process. Same thing with the defense. It exerts a lot of energy, and the way that they have to play on a string. They have to communicate all the time. They have to be crisp on their rotations. And that is asking a lot. LeBron post game even mentioned, he's like, I need my energy for the defensive side of the ball more than the offensive side for this Lakers team. We'll see what happens with them. On Indiana's perspective, how do you feel about them potentially making a deep playoff run? Because they've been playing really, really good basketball since 2025 started.
I think they're a team that's just, they're designed to like punch other teams in the mouth and catch them off guard. Just their fast style of play and the high octane level that their offense can reach, where they're just going to rain threes on you and there's kind of nothing you can do about it. And then like you also have Benedict Mathurin, who had some really great moments tonight, I thought. Obviously there was a couple moments here and there where like he didn't get the call that he wanted and he kind of stayed back and didn't get back on defense and was just yelling at the ref. And it was like, all right, come on. He maybe should have gotten the foul, but you got to get back. And when there's like 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter and you're down by 2, it's like, come on. But we saw the Pacers have done enough for themselves. And I understand there was some external factors in their postseason run last year that they benefited from other teams' injury luck, stuff like that. But they've proven enough with just like their level of play in that gear that they can switch to, where I think a lot of East teams are looking at them and saying, yeah, we probably don't want to play the Pacers because we believe we can beat them, but we're going to be exhausted by the end of that series. Look at the Knicks and how many injuries happened over the course of that series. It's like they wear you down regardless of if like you may sweep them. The Boston Celtics swept them, and it's like, but
it was tough.
It was the hardest 4-game sweep they probably could have possibly had.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And I think one of the factors for this Indiana team over this last stretch is the fact that Tyrese Haliburton is back. Like the playmaking pop, the way that he's working in the half court, he's still working his way back from a back injury. So they're kind of taking their time with him. But generally, he looks like he has tons of juice. The creativity is there in the half court. And the way that they move the ball, Indiana, it's just so, it's like you're pulled in 100 different directions because of it. So I agree with you. I think Indiana's in a really good position in the playoffs to make some noise. Okay. The other big news from tonight was the fact that Nikola Jokic returned to basketball. He missed 5 games, came back tonight, and very, very casually just had, 39 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, ended up having the most triple doubles in a season by a Nugget with 30. By the way, that beat his own previous record of 29. So not a big deal there. Jokic looked great. I thought he was engaged, looked great actively too. Like he span around one time, drove the ball and dunked. Anytime Jokic is dunking like that, he's feeling good. Had a crazy, potentially pass of the year type of pass to Aaron Gordon, where he kind of flipped it behind his head, while he was in the post, which was awesome. Jokic back. Alex, how you feel?
The Nuggets are just, if Jokic is on the floor, and this is the other thing, is not even just when Jokic is on the floor.
Yeah.
Like, the Bucks struggled tonight.
They did.
With Jokic not on the floor. And what I have written in my notes is, if the Nuggets can hold a 10-point lead against you without Jokic, your team's got some problems. And I was watching, I think it was in the second quarter, it was the second or third quarter, where the Nuggets were up by 10 and Jokic wasn't on the floor, and the Bucks like would score a bucket and then the Nuggets would come right back and score a bucket. And it was like, you got to be able to chip away a little bit.
No Giannis, no Dame. That should be mentioned for this Bucks team, dealing with some injuries right now. But that's definitely part of it. And I thought Christian Brown was great in this game too, especially in that third quarter. Had a massive run to flip it. Nuggets pick up a big win here in that race for the 2 seed, or like the 2 to 5, which changes every single day. Speaking of changes, the Suns about to lose to the Celtics very, very badly. It was a very tough game for them. And the Suns now in a position where they, battling for that 10 seed in the Western Conference. On the seeding side of things, Knicks, Clippers, also a big game for the Clippers. They ended up winning in MSG. Clippers moved to 6th in the West. Again, very temporarily. This stuff changes pretty quickly. Obviously, no Brunson or campaign for the Knicks. James Harden went off, though, had 16 points in the third quarter, 29 overall. Okay, when we come back, going to talk about the rookies. People think it's a disappointing rookie class. Alex and I beg to differ. Not a lot of rave reviews for this 2024 rookie class, but there's still a lot of interesting talent here. A lot of players that you can look forward to watching. I think there's boatloads of skill, and I actually think it's pretty deep if you look at some of the players that are starting to produce for their respective teams. Want to start at the top, though, Alex. It seems like by all kind of betting sites and whatever you want to look at, Stephon Castle is the guy who's in the lead for Rookie of the Year. Do you feel that Steph is going to win Rookie of the Year, or is there anybody else that's going to make some noise for you?
I think Castle will win it.
Okay.
That being said, the way the discussion is kind of framed right now, I feel as though people have kind of just overlooked Zaccharie Risacher. I think he has done enough to warrant getting serious buzz in the conversation.
Yeah.
Maybe not like just being outright the favorite, because I think the thing with Castle is his contribution, being able to contribute as a rookie immediately is hard. It doesn't happen, especially in draft classes like this, where there's not a ton of like super high end talent where guys are being thrown into the fire and like, hey, you're our franchise guy, go out there and do everything. Castle was an impactful player from day one.
Yeah.
And Wemby's been out for so long at this point that we kind of forget that the Spurs were in the playoff race until Wemby went out. They were a top 10 seed. They were hanging right in there with the rest of those kind of 6 through 10 West teams. And Stephon Castle was a big part of that. And I think that absolutely has helped his case immensely. Yeah. And I think if he were to win, he would be a completely deserving winner. That being said, Zaccharie Risacher, since the start of the new year, has been, in terms of volume and efficiency, he has been the probably most impactful scoring rookie since the start of the new year. 50, 40, 75 shooting splits. Obviously, the free throw percentage is whatever, but 40% from three on 4.7 attempts a night. The thing that really popped to me when I was diving into him a little bit is he's not only averaging the most points or the third most points since January 1st among all rookies, but his points per touch is like by far the highest of any rookie right now. So yeah, he's not like, people use the fact that he's not a ball handler, he's not a shot creator. They use that against him, but in the context of this Hawks team, it's his strength.
Right.
The fact that when he gets the ball, he's scoring it at a really efficient level. I've been super impressed with his play.
No, you're totally right. And honestly, he is the perfect type of wing to pair next to Trae Young because he, like you said, maximizes the possessions that he gets. I'm really intrigued with his versatility in ball screen actions because he can be your ball handler and you can have Trae Young as a screener. You can have other guys as a screener being used for him, or he can be your screener popping into the short roll, making plays through there. Obviously, he's shooting the ball really well as of late, too, which is a big part of kind of the progression here. But he also wins his minutes on defense. And so when you have that length and versatility, you just have the perfect type of player to pair next to Trae Young. And I agree. I think there is a conversation for Risacher. And I think over the next couple of weeks, he can make it closer than people are saying right now. I agree with you. Do you think there's any chance for some of the guys on the peripheries, like the Jalen Wells of the world or Alex Sarr, Kel'el Ware, been playing pretty good basketball recently too. Do you think any of those guys can get into the conversation here for Rookie of the Year?
A lot of Rookie of the Year comes down to timing. Mm-hmm. And you can either popping early seems to help a lot. Yeah. Like guys who are good quick helps a lot. But if you're not able to sustain like a baseline level of like solidness, it seems like you can taper off really easily. And I think that's kind of what's happened here with guys like Jalen Wells, where it's like he hasn't been bad, not at all. He's just been fine. He's been contributing in a pretty limited role because the Grizzlies are just healthy at this point. And the need for Jalen Wells has gone down. That's not to say his production necessarily has diminished or fallen off of a cliff. It's just the loudness of Jalen Wells is not quite there anymore. And I think there's such a balance of how loud is your production and how long are you able to sustain that production? It's like, are you a starter or are you a guy who's the seventh man in the rotation?
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot easier for a Zaccharie Risacher or a Stephon Castle to maintain that buzz over an 82 game season than it is for a guy like Jalen Wells, where he's only playing 26 minutes a night. For a guy like Kel'el Ware playing 26 minutes a night and not necessarily, always getting the usage that those guys are getting. And it's tough.
That's why Sarr is a guy who's like, he can put up big numbers on any given night, even though the offensive efficiency is just not there right now. And so that's a big part of his game. But like, I think ultimately when you have a guy that's shooting 40, 32, 72 in terms of shooting splits, like it's tough to parse through that and talk about him being in the Rookie of the Year conversation, even despite this class not being, the class that it should be. Should also mention there are a couple of guys recently that are playing well that might force themselves into a first team all rookie situation. Matas Buzelis, who we've talked about ad nauseum here this week, has been awesome for the Bulls recently, really popping as a driver, as a guy who has looked better as a shooter overall, has the size to eventually be a pretty good defender too. Another guy, Ron Holland, I think has gotten some opportunity here with Detroit, had a really big game against the Pelicans earlier this weekend. So those are a couple guys who are popping. Also should be noted that we're not talking about Jared McCain here because unfortunately he got hurt. And so this Rookie of the Year conversation looks completely different if McCain is here because he was special. He was an absurd shot maker, a guy who looked incredibly in rhythm, probably the only bright spot for the Sixers team this season. And so there's a lot of guys that you can look at and say, well, this conversation could change. And it's very, very fluid because we're only a year into this draft class. Wanted to ask you, speaking on the fluidity of this draft class, if you were to project forward 5 years from now, who do you think you would take number one in this draft class?
Okay. So who I would take number one and
or who do you think
I think will be the best are two different answers.
Give me who you think. Okay, sure. Yeah, go for it.
So I know this is controversial. If I'm your average NBA team trying to contend in a vacuum,
all right,
I'm probably taking Zaccharie Risacher.
Okay.
Because I think
so that's your number one pick, right?
I think the fact that Zaccharie Risacher went number one, I think that's like totally reasonable.
Right.
I understand there are other guys with higher upside, but like the fact that his production is where it is at 19 years old and he's contributing at a positive level already, I'm like, cool, I'll take that from a number 1 overall pick.
Right.
People are like, he might be like, he gets a lot of Michael Porter Jr. comps. He gets a lot of Klay Thompson comps. I'm like, if you get that with the number 1 overall pick,
that's pretty good.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's totally fine.
Yeah.
For 99% of NBA teams, that's totally fine.
Right. Okay.
Now,
best player,
who I think will be the best. There is only one player that I have watched this year where I watch him. Okay, first, one caveat. It's probably Jared McCain. I think Jared McCain's going to be the best, but he's hurt. So I'm not going to include him.
Yes.
It's probably going to be him, though. He would run away with Rookie of the Year right now.
Okay.
Aside from him, the only guy that I've watched this year where his play like gives me star vibes and he does like star things where I'm like, whoa, I can't believe you just did that on an NBA court against NBA defenders and like are helping win games while doing this crazy stuff. Right. Dude, it's Modest Buzelis.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love it.
I am blown away by some of the stuff that he does. And maybe part of it is like me longing for the G League Ignite to have one good thing come out of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I understand Jonathan Kuminga is like technically, he was an NBA champion. He's still a good player. Yeah. But like, I just really want there to be a star from the G League Ignite emerge from the ashes. And maybe that's Modest Buzelis, but he, like you said, I'm working on a video on him right now. And just the willingness to try some of the stuff that he does, like the audacity to do some of the things that he does with the basketball. I'm like, you've got it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's kind of, who is it for the Jazz? Who,
like Collier or Filipowski?
Other guard. I can't think of his name. It's
Keontae George.
Keontae George.
There you go.
It's like Keontae George syndrome where I don't know if you'll ever be efficient, but holy cow, you've got the star gene.
Right.
Where you do star things, but the ball does not fall in the basket at a star rate. And that's kind of my thing with Buzelis. I'm like, the flashes are there.
Yeah.
He's doing the things. It's like, does the ball go in the hoop enough? And does he get enough opportunity to like put it all together?
He has that it factor. If you remember, like he was trash talking during the NBA draft. He was calling guys out one-on-one. The fact that he was like, I'm willing to be in the dunk contest, all of those things make it feel like he has that A factor in terms of the superstar qualities that you're talking about here that he could dive into. And then from a skill set perspective, like great cutter, heady driver, obviously crazy athletic. The shooting is coming around. Obviously has all the tools to be a very good defender. The Bulls nailed this pick. I agree with you on that. The Bulls absolutely nailed this pick. And if he turns out the way that he's supposed to, could change things. Didn't get a chance to talk about my Raptors. We'll talk about Jacoby Walter, Jonathan Lobo, Jamal Shed, Jameson Battle at some point. I don't know. Mix these guys in for all rookie second team. There is actually a lot of talent here in this 2024 draft class. And I think that's what I wanted to highlight. Just tons of guys who will have long NBA careers. You think of like Zach Edey, Yves Missi, Bub Carrington, guys who, even Quinton Post, who's playing really, really impactful basketball for the Warriors, right? Alex, appreciate you, man. Thank you very much for hopping onto the podcast. Very fun to talk about rookies. Guys, check out Alex Hoops on YouTube for sure. One of the best at breaking down some of these guys and their skills.
Thank you,
folks.
Appreciate it.
As always, thank you for watching and listening to the Athletic NBA Daily. Thank you for waking up with us. Hit us with a 5-star review if you can. We will see you guys next time.